Will Zell,
Yo.
founding and managing partner at Vessel, as well as co-founder and executive chair of AssetWatch. Will has been building and investing in companies across multiple different industries for the last 18 years. Over his career, he has had the great opportunity of mentoring many young entrepreneurs, encouraging them to dream big dreams and do big things. Super excited to sit down with you. This has probably been the first time outside of that one time at If You Know, You Know with your wife, where we actually sat down and got to know each other. So what better setting than this? Just starting off, man, like I said, I don't know much about your background outside of what I've looked up online. Mm-hmm. Can you just, wherever you want to start, tell me like how you got here today,
Sure.
How Vessel got started, what's going on with AssetWatch.
Absolutely.
Take it away, brother.
Well, thank you, man. It's great to be with you. So I've lived all my life in the Bellefontaine, Ohio area, so northwest of Columbus, about 45 minutes, small town of Bellefontaine. Coming out of high school, I made my first entrepreneurial decision, even though it had nothing to do with starting a business, but it kept me local in my hometown. And that was deciding to run for city council as a senior in high school, and then kind of the fall of my freshman year in college. Yep. So it was really a huge decision. I lost the race, but it was a great season for me because after that, a lot of the community leaders came around me and said, "Hey, we want you to stay here, get involved, and get plugged into the community." So
Which high school?
So Bellefontaine High School.
Okay.
Yep. So
why did you decide to do that?
So the fall of my senior year, I did an internship with the Logan County Chamber of Commerce president. I had been involved in student government, social clubs, and really loved politics. And during that internship, and he was a great mentor. So when we're talking about mentorship, literally one of the most impactful mentors in my life. And he showed me, a perspective of the community that I hadn't seen before. And I just gained conviction that there were some really big problems. So when he went to downtown Bellefontaine in 2001. 80% of the real estate was unoccupied. We had, the downtown being the heart of a community. All of the business activity had gone to the edges. We weren't a community necessarily in decline, but we weren't a community that was growing, right?
Sure.
That had a lot of great energy. And I felt like I could make a difference. So my campaign slogan was actually a voice for the future. And I actually still think about that today in the context of, am I still being a voice for the future?
For sure. That's outstanding. So were you always super motivated? Did you were you a 4.0 student? Were you
No, I was like a
president?
3-4 student. So not terrible, not great. I was always pretty self-motivated though, in terms of taking kind of what I wanted to do in life pretty seriously, and then being willing to go down a path that was the non-obvious path, right?
Where does that come from, you think?
No idea.
Yeah.
So
somewhere in Bellefontaine?
Yeah, my grandfather started a business. My parents, neither of them were entrepreneurs. I'm the fifth of 7 kids in my family. So maybe it was just being obscure and in the middle. Yeah, exactly. But no, I don't know, and I think it's really interesting. There are some entrepreneurs that they're starting their business when they're 8 or 10, lemonade stands. That wasn't my path. It took me really to my early to mid 20s to connect a willingness to take risk to you should be doing that in starting businesses.
100%.
And so it was a journey for me. But that's I will say there's a concept of a natural born leader, an NBL, and I think I did have some great teachers and mentors early on that said, okay, you've got leadership capability, let's put you into leadership roles.
So that's the beginning. Fast forward me to maybe your first. Did you ever have a job, or did you ever work for anybody else?
I did. While I was going to college, after I failed miserably at running for city council, so continued to go to school. Had my first exposure to small business. I became a licensed insurance agent and did that for 4 years. So sold both property and casualty and life and health. And then just served the community pretty broadly. I technically started my first business in 2006, formed an LLC to purchase a piece of real estate. And that was really my first business that I did was
this all still in Bellefontaine?
Yep.
Okay.
So bought that in 2006, then the great financial crisis really hit 2008, 2009. And that's when we got pretty aggressive in buying real estate. So we did 19 properties over 4 years. primarily all in Logan County, a little bit down in Champaign and Union County. But really, real estate for me was a business that I cut my teeth on. I tell every entrepreneur that, everyone has like the greatest dream and ambition when they go to start a business, right? You have to be a natural optimist to be like, hey, I want to go start my own business. But the very first thing that happens is that the market's going to come along and it's going to punch you in the face.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to expose very quickly what you suck at.
100%.
Right. And like your ability to persist is all about how you respond right after that hit. So, we did some good deals, did some bad deals, but more than anything else, I learned what I was good at, and then more importantly, what I wasn't good at, and then how do you build either develop your capabilities around the things that are deficiencies, or build a team that fill the gaps for you.
Totally.
So that was the journey in real estate, and all of that was up in Logan County. Probably like 2012-ish, I really started to have a personal evolution more towards wanting to focus on operating companies, so not build a real estate portfolio, but more operating companies, and specifically going after problems that I saw in the world and figuring out how to leverage technology to solve them at scale. So I wanted to become a tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And also I always view things both as like operator and investor. So it's also a venture capitalist kind of at the same time. There is zero venture capital and tech startup community in Bellefontaine, Ohio. And so that's when I started driving down. Yeah. That's when I started driving down to Columbus every day and literally had zero relationships. Just figured that, if I was going to take a swing at this, I knew, I had ideas for businesses. I knew I needed capital. And I made the assumption that a city like Columbus, 13th largest city in the country, would have abundant venture capital, and it was a bit of a naive assumption at the time.
So, at what point did you get acquainted with? Was AssetWatch the next thing?
Yeah. So, I I had two companies.
Just rewinding here.
Yeah.
You literally just came into the city and you had business cards and you're like, hey, someone meet with me. Like, how did that go?
That was basically it. I had one person that I think I knew in the business community in Columbus, and sat down, met with them, and they introduced me to a bunch of people. Very early on, I was introduced to a gentleman named Brooke Paul, and from a mentorship perspective, he's had a prolific impact on my life. He was running at the time an accelerator program called 10X. And just through his mentorship, and we were able to get a couple of my first ideas into 10X, and that was a huge catalyst for me to build a lot of relationships. Yeah. And I owe so much to him and that community of people. And this is 2013, I think. Yeah. But both of those, I had kind of two companies I was trying to work on prior to AssetWatch, and both needed investor capital to really get to market. And I just wasn't able to raise it. And it was a very painful part of the journey. And so ended up having to shut those down, learned a lot through that lesson. And coming into 2014, I basically had one at-bat left before my wife is like, you're done. Get a job, get some stability, because she's also an entrepreneur as well. So
shout out to your wife.
She's amazing.
That's a journey, man. Yeah, to go through what you've gone through as a wife and a spouse.
She's incredible. Yep, absolutely. Beth is awesome. We've been married 18 years.
Let's go.
Yep. In 2014, I had kind of one last idea that I wanted to try work on. Ended up meeting a research professor at Ohio State and learned about technology that he was developing first in the context of the business I wanted to start, but really fell in love with his tech. And at the time, there was another group that was getting going in Columbus called Ecove Capital Partners, and met with, and their business model was focused on commercializing tech out of research institutions like Ohio State. So what ended up happening is we all came together at the end of 2014 to start a company called Nikola Labs, and the tech that we launched out of Ohio State was focused on wireless electricity. So right now we get electricity from point A to point B with wires, just like we went from wired internet connectivity to Wi-Fi. Now it's wireless. You can, in essence, do the same thing when it comes to electricity. So really fascinating technology, very frontier tech, which means that it needed a lot of development and there wasn't a very clear defined market to go after. So we spent the first few years working on the tech, working on a lot of business applications, and just grinding our way through it, man. It was wild. Thankfully, through the Cove partnership, we were able to raise some capital. So they had a lot of investor connections outside of the region. And then in 2018, we really found the first great market for us to focus on, which is in the manufacturing space, specifically selling a system to maintenance teams. Took that to market in 2019, and that's been a very high growth business. In 2023, we rebranded Nikola Labs to AssetWatch.
Okay.
So if you look at the story, AssetWatch is the rebrand of Nikola Labs.
Gotcha.
Yep.
But did you pivot as you pivoted?
Oh, we pivoted everywhere.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about like what are you solving? What's the niche there with AssetWatch?
So it's a beautiful business and it's a great market. So we sell to maintenance and reliability teams within manufacturing organizations. If you look at kind of their day-to-day existence over the last several decades, their entire culture and the processes that drive their daily work are built around responding to breakdown events when they happen and trying to fix it as fast as you can, right? So machine breaks, fire's on, let's try to fix it fast. What we have built is a platform where we're utilizing the industrial Internet of Things technology stack. So low-cost sensors, wireless communications infrastructure, cloud-based software, AI, so on and so forth, to bring this all-in-one solution to our customers where we'll put sensors on their machines, like vibration sensors on a gearbox, let's say. And with that vibration data, you can see potential failures weeks, if not months, before it would actually become a breakdown event. It's like being able to see an artery if it's blocked 40-50% and having either a minor surgery or the ability to just like work out and eat better rather than responding to a heart attack, right? And if you think about that value case, the more proactive you can become, the lower cost and the more efficient you can be. So what that results in for our customers is we eliminate unplanned downtime. And unplanned downtime is one of the most expensive events that any manufacturing facility experiences on an annual basis, when you should be producing your product, but stuff's broken and you can't produce it.
Yeah, 100%.
So we, from 2019 through now, we've grown very, very significantly. So we have almost 100,000 sensors deployed across the U.S. and Canada. We have about just shy of 300 manufacturing organizations as customers, and the company has grown to about 230 team members.
Fantastic.
We've raised $95 million so far in venture capital.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Congrats, brother.
Yeah.
And then from there, so how did you go from AssetWatch to now Vessel?
So another piece of advice that I give to entrepreneurs, especially if they were trying to go down like a tech startup path, is you need to figure out very early in your journey whether you are a stage-specific founder or operator or you're an asset-specific founder or operator. What I mean by that is, do you love early stage and like you just want to build businesses in the early stage? Or do you love a business where you want to be the CEO if it's from seed stage to Series A, B, C, so on and so forth? Do you want to grow as a CEO as that company grows? Because the harsh reality is that the demands of what it takes to be a CEO in a company that's a high growth organization changes every 12 to 24 months. It's going from 2 people to 20 to 200, completely different demands as a CEO. So I figured out very early that I'm more of a stage specific operator and investor. I love the 0 to 1 phase. So the whole playbook is, as a company starts to grow, starts to scale, how do you go and find incredible executive talent, that's scale up talent, and you put them in place to create a masterpiece, and then you continue to be involved. But what my role became is executive chair. So at the end of 2020, I went from CEO to executive chair at AssetWatch. It still allows me to be in the business every day, have a big impact, especially on our product vision and strategy. But number one, it's not full time. And then number two, I don't have to run the day-to-day operations of a 200-person company. Yeah. So I knew that when I made that switch, I wanted to go back to the 0 to 1 phase and start an investment company. And we had our own journey, which was interesting, through Zell Capital in our first iteration. But that dream has developed into Vessel. The last year has been really interesting for us, and we've got just an incredible team of people doing some really great things.
Congrats, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, so all these things being said, thank you for the deep dive. It's fantastic to hear more about your story. You mentioned a couple of moments where there was mentorship. That was a crucial piece of why you were successful, or there's some pivotal moments that happened.
Yep.
Tell me how mentorship has shaped that journey that you just explained to me.
Yep. When I think about mentorship, I think about two kinds. I think about the mentors who you have the ability to spend time with and talk to, and it's a two-way conversation. And then there are mentors where it's really a one-way conversation, whether that's great entrepreneurs or people of history, biographies, people that you can learn from through video or written text. And both have had a significant impact. I love reading biographies, and I've got a ton of great founders that I look up to and investors. But really, at the end of the day, there's nothing like being able to sit across from somebody who's been in the shoes that you're in, right? If you look, and I look specifically at like the founding journey and entrepreneurial journey, somebody who has struggled with, we're 2 days away from payroll and we don't have enough money.
Oh, yeah.
to pay for payroll, right? Or we're going down a path of developing a product and it's just not working out, or the market's not working out. I mean, very real and very consequential decisions that is not just about a job, right? It becomes your life. And so to be able to have people who have been there and then have the empathy to not only care for where you are on the journey, but help give you very practical steps that you can take is incredibly useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is probably going to be my favorite question I ask you amongst all the folks that we've been talking to for the Business Hop, mentorship, mentor of the year, etc. You've been through some very real shit with the two businesses that didn't work out. It resonates with me personally because I had a business that didn't work out that just had a lot of really early success. Tell me about the realness, for entrepreneurs that struggled and maybe didn't make it on a venture or two. Yep. Give some advice to those folks. How did you push through that?
So one of my favorite quotes is when Elon Musk talks about what the startup journey is. He says that it's like eating glass and staring into the abyss. Yeah, right.
I love that quote.
And actually, if you look at the Vessel brand itself, it is a very intentional brand name because the brand story of Vessel is a comparison to the founder's journey as compared to explorers of old. So if you look at the Magellans of the world, the explorers that we read about, in school and what they had to go through, the path to having an idea that's in the distance and you don't know exactly how to get there, but you need to get people to believe in you to help you fund a ship, crazy people to join you as crew members on the ship, and then you set out into the waters. And the journey between the port that you sail from and the land that you get to, which is, in our analogy, product market fit, that journey across the waters, you make it or you die.
Oh, yeah. It's like real life Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, 100%. And so at Vessel, what we're focused on is how do you build ships to endure and then to be there with the people who we invest in on that journey. And for me, what it has been, and I've got ships that are at the bottom of the sea. I've got ships that have made it to land and we're exploring new land. But what I think about most is it's the dark night of the soul. It's when you're in the ship and you're in the middle of the ocean and the waves are just relentless. And you've got real lives that have decided to join you on this journey, and it feels like the ship's going to break apart, right? And shit is real.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So it's where you kind of meet yourself there that where I believe great entrepreneurs are made, right? And the outcome could be you survive to see the next day. The outcome is you may need to abandon ship. But it's the very real and very visceral experience that every founder has. And we don't see it, right? Like you and I could be hanging out in a room and we're just chatting and we have a good conversation and you put on this front and you're smiling. But this whole time, what is really happening in your life is you are there. Yeah. You're in the depth of the ocean, right? In a tiny vessel, in a force of nature that doesn't care who you are, and it will swallow you in a second. And so two things come from that. Number one, every entrepreneur needs to know like there are others who have been there, and you need to find people who have been there and just connect with them because they'll get it 100%. Number two, even if you do lose the ship, just hold on to something that floats, get yourself back to land, and you'll find that your ability to step up the next time, you'll step up with such a greater, one, appreciation for the ocean, and then number two, ability to navigate, right? It's, when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not just starting the business. You're taking on, you're going against forces of nature, markets, right? And they're very, very powerful. And you have to learn how to flow with them, how to not fight against them, but ultimately you need to have a respect for it. And so, and again, I think the biggest difference is you see founders just walking around, right? And they look normal on the outside, but in the inside, what's actually happening, the emotional impact of that journey is very akin to being in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, that was probably the most beautiful analogy of an entire marketplace ecosystem. So
it's real.
Yeah.
And that's
I feel like you've done that before. Yeah.
And it's, and again, you quickly get past ego.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. Quickly get past ego, and when you really dive into to try to start a business.
Well, speaking of ego, and this was me. I was a cocky little son of a gun when I was in my early parts of my career and had some sales success, and I needed to get knocked up a little bit and get told some more real information. For the mentees that are listening to this and the mentees that are attending the business hop, what advice do you have for them? What do you want to see more out of mentees?
It's worth it, right? Like and I love quotes. I've learned a lot from people. One of my other favorite quotes is that the most valuable real estate in the world is not the great gold mines or oil fields or diamond deposits. The most valuable real estate in the world is the local cemetery.
Why?
Because it is where there are songs that should have been written that weren't written. There are businesses that should have been started that weren't started. There were paintings that should have been painted that weren't painted. You have people who have a dream. Everybody is very unique and individual and is created, in my worldview, is created with a purpose, right? And it takes time to develop what that unique impact that you can have on the world is, but it is always worth it to go after it. And that could be as an entrepreneur where you're starting your own business. It could be working within an organization. But you have to lean in and find who you are and then go after it, right? Because there is nobody else like you, right? And you need to surround yourself with people who will speak that life into you in the good times and in the bad times. And Columbus needs it, right? I love everything that you're doing. I love the energy. I love the bringing the community together. And we have so much potential. What we need are people who are just taking big swings.
Absolutely.
And getting after it.
100%.
And you'll find people will come out of the woodwork to support you and to encourage you on that journey.
I love that. Outstandingly put. Last question. And I always screw this up, so I'm going to have to look right at my notes. What do you wish you would have been told 10 years ago that you would now tell someone?
Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. So in many there have been some incredible experiences over the last decade. So we talk a lot about the struggle, but there's been some really great highs, right? Like it's been an awesome journey to be part of it. But it's primarily been a path to date of just challenge, right? And so in many ways, I don't think I would try to convince myself to not go down that path. I don't think I would tell my 10-year-old myself 10 years ago anything
really
different. Mm-mm.
I love that, man.
Yeah, I would say go and just go hard and go after it. And just be ready. Yeah. But I actually think it's a really interesting question, but in my mind, I can't say I would.
No regrets, baby.
I'm not going to give you any insight, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to endure the pain.
I love it. Well, everybody, Will Zell, Vessel, AssetWatch, thank you so much for coming and doing this with me.
Yeah.
It's a great time. Any last words for the mentees out there?
Now let's go. We've got so much work to do, and we've just all have to take big action with a sense of urgency.
Love it. Thanks, brother.